A bullet whizzes through the Chicago night, and Livia Vale realizes a harsh truth. Loving the most dangerous man in the city means every one of his enemies wants you dead. Damian Carady, the youngest mafia boss in Chicago history, has chosen her. And that choice transforms Livia from a poor waitress into a living target for the entire underworld. This is a story of love, betrayal, and the price of entering hell with no return. Watch until the end, and comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far this story has come. Rain doesn't fall in Chicago during October. It attacks. That night, it came down in sheets so thick the streetlights barely cut through, turning the downtown district into a blur of neon and shadow. Inside Vittorio's, the kind of restaurant where a single meal costs more than most people make in a week, the storm was just background noise to the clink of crystal and the murmur of power disguised as polite conversation. Livia Vale's hands shook as she balanced the tray of champagne flutes. 3 weeks into this job and she still hadn't mastered the art of looking invisible while serving people who treated her like furniture. The dress code required black slacks and a white button-down that she'd bought secondhand, already worn thin at the elbows. Her dark hair was pulled back so tight it gave her a headache. She'd been on her feet for 6 hours straight, and the shift wouldn't end for another 4. The tray wobbled. She steadied it, exhaled through her nose, kept moving. Table 12 was celebrating something. An anniversary, maybe, or a business deal that would make some people rich and others desperate. The woman wore diamonds that could have paid Livia's rent for a year. The man didn't look up when Livia set down their drinks. Neither said thank you. She was turning away when her shoe caught the leg of a chair someone had pushed out too far. Time slowed in that sick, inevitable way it does right before disaster. The tray tilted. Champagne arced through the air in a golden spray. The flutes hit the marble floor with a sound like gunshots, sharp, final, impossible to take back. The entire dining room went silent. Livia stood frozen, staring at the wreckage at her feet. Shattered crystal glittered like ice shards across the dark stone. Champagne pooled and spread, soaking into the grout. Somewhere behind her she heard the manager's sharp intake of breath. She knew what was coming. She'd be fired. Worse, they'd probably dock her pay for the glasses. She couldn't afford that. She couldn't afford anything anymore. Jesus Christ. The words came out barely a whisper, in Italian, the language her mother used to speak when she was angry or scared or tired enough that English took too much effort. Livia dropped to her knees and started gathering the broken pieces with her bare hands, because standing there doing nothing felt worse. A shard bit into her thumb. Blood welled up, mixing with the champagne. She didn't stop. The whispers started immediately. She could feel every pair of eyes on her, could hear the judgment in every hushed word. Her face burned. Her throat tightened. She wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor and never come back. That's when the front door opened. The quality of the silence changed. It wasn't just quiet anymore. It was tense, expectant, the kind of stillness that comes right before something violent. Livia didn't look up. She kept collecting the glass, piece by piece, carefully setting each fragment on the tray like it mattered, like she could fix this if she just tried hard enough. Footsteps crossed the dining room, expensive shoes against marble, measured and unhurried. They stopped about 10 feet away from her. The manager's voice came out strained and overly pleasant. "Mr. Carady, welcome. Your usual table is ready." Livia's hands went still. Everyone in Chicago knew that name. You didn't have to be connected to know it. Damian Carady, 28 years old and already running the most powerful criminal organization in the city, inherited from a father who died under circumstances the newspapers called suspicious, but everyone knew was murder. The Carady family had controlled Chicago's underworld for 3 generations: drugs, gambling, protection, construction contracts, political favors. They owned judges and cops and councilmen. Cross them and you disappeared. She still didn't look up. "Take your time, Mr. Carady. We'll have everything ready in just a moment." The manager's voice was pitched higher now, nervous. "No rush." The voice that answered was low, smooth, completely unbothered, young, but with an edge that made it clear he didn't need to raise it to be obeyed. Livia's pulse hammered in her ears. She grabbed another piece of glass. Her thumb was bleeding more now, leaving red smears on everything she touched. "You're hurt." The voice was closer now, right above her. She looked up. Damian Carady stood 3 feet away, hands in the pockets of a black suit that probably cost more than her car. He was younger than she'd expected. Sharp features, dark hair cut short, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers selling watches or cologne. But his eyes were wrong. Too cold, too aware, the kind of eyes that had seen things and done things and felt nothing about either. He was looking at her bleeding hand. "It's fine," Livia said. Her voice came out rough. "It's not." He pulled a white pocket square from his jacket and held it out. She stared at it, at him. Every instinct told her to take it, to say thank you, to do what you're supposed to do when someone like him offers you something. Instead, she said, "I don't need your help." The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Almost. "Livia." The manager materialized beside her, his hand closing around her arm hard enough to bruise. "Apologize to Mr. Karate and get back to the kitchen. Now." She looked at the manager's hand on her arm, at his thin face and nervous eyes, at the way he was practically vibrating with the need to make the situation disappear before it became a problem. "Let go of me," she said quietly. "Livia, let go." He did, but only because Damien was still watching. Livia pushed herself to her feet, ignoring the white pocket square still extended in his hand. She gathered what she could of the broken glass onto the tray, her hands steady now, despite the blood and the trembling in her legs. When she straightened, she met Damien's eyes for just a second. "Sorry about the noise," she said. Then she turned and walked toward the kitchen, her shoes crunching on the glass she'd missed. Behind her, she heard the manager start to babble apologies. Heard Damien cut him off with 2 words. "She's fine." The kitchen door swung shut behind her, and Livia finally let herself breathe. She set the tray down on the nearest counter, her hand shaking again now that no one could see. Maria, one of the other servers, grabbed her wrist. "What the hell were you thinking?" Maria hissed. "You can't talk to him like that." "I didn't say anything." "You didn't take the handkerchief." "Same thing." Maria pulled her over to the sink and turned on the cold water. "You know who he is?" "Everyone knows who he is." "Then you know you're lucky he didn't—" Maria stopped herself, shook her head. "Just keep your head down for the rest of the night, okay? Don't give Paolo an excuse." Paolo, the manager. Livia glanced toward his office. Through the small window in the door, she could see him on the phone, pacing, his face red. "I'm getting fired," Livia said. "Maybe not." Karate didn't seem mad. "Doesn't matter if he's mad. I broke 6 glasses. That's coming out of my check either way." Maria didn't argue. They both knew how this worked. Livia wrapped her thumb in paper towels and got back to work. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of forced smiles and aching feet. She avoided table 12. Avoided looking toward wherever Damien Karate was sitting. Avoided thinking about the way he'd looked at her, like he was trying to figure out a puzzle he hadn't expected to find interesting. At 11:30, Paolo called her into his office. She stood in front of his desk while he sat back in his chair, arms crossed, making her wait. The power play was obvious and petty, and it still worked. "You're a liability," he finally said. "I know, I'm sorry. It won't happen again." "You're right, it won't." He leaned forward. "You're done here." The words hit like a physical blow. She'd known it was coming, but hearing it still felt like falling. "Please." The word tasted like ash. "And I need this job. I'll pay for the glasses. I'll work extra shifts. I'll talk." "You embarrassed me in front of the most important client this restaurant has. Do you understand what that means? One word from Damien Karate and we're done. Finished. He could shut us down tomorrow if he wanted." He didn't seem angry. "That's not the point." Paolo stood. "Clean out your locker. I'll mail your final check minus the cost of damages." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to go to hell, wanted to remind him that she'd covered shifts for people who called in hungover, that she'd stayed late without complaint, that she'd never once asked for anything except the chance to keep working. Instead, she said, "Fine." Her locker held almost nothing. A change of clothes, a protein bar she'd been saving, a photo of her mother that she kept taped to the inside of the door. She took it all. Walked past Maria without stopping, even though she could see the sympathy in her eyes. Pushed through the kitchen doors one last time. The dining room had mostly cleared out. A few tables of late diners lingered over dessert and coffee. Livia kept her eyes down, heading for the exit. "Livia Vale." She stopped, turned. Damien Karate sat alone at a corner table, a glass of wine in front of him that he hadn't touched. The restaurant had probably emptied around him, and he hadn't noticed or hadn't cared. "That's not my name," she said, then corrected herself. I mean, it is, but how do you... He gestured to the empty chair across from him. Every instinct she had said to walk away, to leave this place and never come back. But she was tired and angry and had just lost her job, and some self-destructive part of her didn't care anymore about being careful. She sat. Up close, he was almost disturbingly perfect, the kind of symmetrical features that looked unreal, like they'd been designed rather than inherited. But there were small flaws if you looked hard enough. A thin scar through his left eyebrow, shadows under his eyes that suggested he didn't sleep much. And those eyes themselves, gray-blue and utterly empty of anything soft. I asked about you, he said. Why? Because you're the first person in 6 months who's looked at me like I'm an inconvenience instead of a threat. Maybe I'm stupid. You're not. He leaned back, studied her. You're working 2 jobs. The other one is at a diner on the south side, overnight shifts on weekends. You dropped out of nursing school 2 years ago when your mother got sick. She died 4 months ago. You've been trying to pay off her medical bills ever since. The casual violation of her privacy should have made her furious. Instead, she just felt tired. That's creepy, she said flatly. It's thorough. Same thing. She started to stand. They fired you. It wasn't a question. She sat back down. Because of the glasses, she said, not because of you. Both. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a business card, set it on the table between them. Call this number tomorrow. There's a position available. She looked at the card without touching it. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. No business name, just a phone number. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's a job. You'd be working in my office, administrative work, filing, scheduling, answering phones. It pays triple what you were making here. Why? Because I need an assistant and you need money. There are 1,000 people in this city who need money, but I'm only offering it to you. Livia finally picked up the card, turned it over. The back was blank. What's the catch? She asked. No catch. There's always a catch. Damien's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes, a flicker of what might have been amusement or might have been annoyance. You'd be working for the karate family. That comes with certain complications. You mean I'd be working for criminals? I mean you'd be working for me. The distinction seemed important to him. Livia couldn't tell if that made it better or worse. She should say no. Should walk out of here and find another restaurant job, another diner shift, another way to survive that didn't involve taking money from a man whose family business was built on fear and violence. But her thumb was still bleeding through the paper towel. Her feet ached. Her bank account was in the negative, and the thought of spending one more night barely sleeping in her shitty apartment, staring at the ceiling and counting the days until she got evicted, made something in her chest feel like it was caving in. I'll think about it, she said. She stood. This time, he didn't stop her. She was halfway to the door when he called out, Livia! She turned. He was watching her with those empty eyes, and for just a second she saw something in them that looked almost human. You were right, he said, about not needing my help. But you might want it anyway. She left without answering. The rain had stopped by the time she made it outside, but the streets were still slick and dark. She pulled her jacket tighter and started the 6-block walk to the bus stop. The card was in her pocket. She could feel it there, a small rectangle of potential disaster. Her phone buzzed, a text from the property management company. Rent was due in 3 days. They'd already given her 2 extensions. She pulled out the card again, stared at the number in the glow of a streetlight. Then she put it back in her pocket and kept walking. 2 days later, she was sitting in her apartment. Calling it an apartment was generous. It was a studio with a hot plate and a bathroom the size of a closet, when someone knocked on her door. She wasn't expecting anyone, hadn't been expecting anyone in months. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a dark suit. Not Damien. Older, heavier, with the build of someone who used to be muscle and had kept the attitude. She opened the door with the chain still on. Livia Valley? His voice was rougher than Damien's, shaped by cigarettes and decades of Chicago winters. Who's asking? Mr. Karate sent me. You didn't call. I'm still thinking about it. He figured. The man held up a bag from a pharmacy. Said to give you this. For your hand. She looked at her bandaged thumb. The cut had gotten infected. She'd been putting off buying antibiotics she couldn't afford. How did he... She stopped. Stupid question. Damien Carrady knew everything he wanted to know. There's also this. The man pulled out an envelope, set it on the door frame. No strings. You don't want the job. You keep the money anyway. But he wanted you to have options. He walked away before she could respond. Livia waited until he was gone before opening the door fully. The bag contained antibiotic ointment, gauze, medical tape, and a bottle of pain medication. The envelope was thick. She opened it. Inside was enough cash to cover 3 months of rent. Also a note, handwritten in neat, precise letters. The offer stands. You deserve better than barely surviving. D. She sat on her mattress on the floor. She'd sold the bed frame 2 months ago and stared at the money, at the medical supplies, at the evidence that someone had noticed she existed and had decided for whatever reason to care. It was a trap. Had to be. Men like Damien Carrady didn't do favors without expecting something in return. But what if it wasn't? What if this was just what he'd said, a job and a chance to stop drowning? She picked up her phone, pulled out the card, stared at the number for a long time. Then she dialed. He answered on the second ring. I was starting to think you'd say no. I'm not saying yes, Livia said. I'm saying I'll meet with you. Actual interview. I want to know exactly what this job is and what you expect from me. Fair enough? She could hear the smile in his voice. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. I'll send a car. I can take the bus. You could, but you won't. He paused. The car will be there at 1:30. Don't be late. He hung up before she could argue. Livia looked at the phone, at the money on her bed, at her small shabby apartment with its water-stained ceiling and the draft that came through the window she couldn't afford to fix. She'd made worse decisions. Probably. Anik. The car that arrived the next day was a black Bentley that looked like it cost more than her entire life. The driver opened the door for her without speaking. She climbed in, feeling absurdly out of place in her nicest jeans and a sweater that had a small hole under the arm she hoped wasn't visible. The interior smelled like leather and money. They drove north, away from her neighborhood, and into parts of the city she'd only seen in passing. The buildings got taller, cleaner, more imposing. The Bentley pulled up in front of a glass and steel tower that stretched up into the gray October sky. 20th floor, the driver said. First words he'd spoken. The lobby was all marble and modern art. A security guard nodded at her like he'd been expecting her. She took the elevator up, watching the numbers climb. The 20th floor opened into an office suite that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Everything was clean lines and expensive furniture. A receptionist with perfect hair looked up as Livia entered. Miss Vale, Mr. Carrady is expecting you. Through that door. Livia's heart was pounding. This was insane. She should leave. Should turn around and take the elevator back down and forget any of this ever happened. Instead, she walked through the door. Damien's office was corner-facing, with windows on 2 sides that made the city look small and manageable. He was standing at one of them, phone to his ear, having a conversation in what sounded like Italian. He glanced at her, held up one finger, wait, and continued talking. She stood awkwardly in the doorway until he finished the call. You came, he said, pocketing the phone. You sent a car that probably cost more than I'll make in my entire life. Seemed rude not to. That almost smile again. Sit. She sat in one of the chairs facing his desk. He didn't sit behind it. Instead, he leaned against the front of it, arms crossed, close enough that she had to tilt her head to look up at him. The job, he said, is exactly what I told you. Administrative work. You'd be managing my schedule, handling correspondence, keeping track of meetings and appointments. Most of it is legal business. The family has legitimate holdings in construction, real estate, waste management. You'd be working mostly with those. Mostly. There will be calls and meetings related to other aspects of the business. You don't need to know the details. You just need to schedule them and make sure I'm where I need to be. So I'd be helping you run a criminal empire. You'd be helping me run a business. What I do beyond that isn't your concern. That's a convenient line. It's an honest one. He studied her. I'm not going to lie to you about what my family does, but I'm also not going to involve you in anything that would make you legally culpable. You're not a member of the organization, you're an employee. And when the FBI comes asking questions, they won't. How can you be sure? Because I'm very good at what I do. The confidence in his voice wasn't arrogance, it was fact. Livia looked around the office, at the expensive art on the walls, the awards and certificates from charitable foundations, the photograph of Damien shaking hands with the mayor. Why me? She asked. You could hire anyone, someone with experience, someone who actually knows how to do this job. I could, Damien agreed, but they'd all have the same problem. Which is? They'd be afraid of me. Livia laughed, couldn't help it. You think I'm not afraid of you? I think you're smart enough to be afraid, but I also think you're angry enough not to care. He moved closer, and suddenly the office felt smaller. You've spent 2 years watching your mother die while insurance companies found excuses not to pay. You've worked yourself to exhaustion trying to cover bills that should never have existed. You've been stepped on and ignored and treated like you're disposable, and you're furious about all of it. He wasn't wrong. She hated that he wasn't wrong. So what? She said. You think my anger makes me useful? I think your anger makes you honest. Everyone else who works for me tells me what they think I want to hear. You'll tell me the truth. How do you know? Because you already have, twice. He straightened. The job pays $90,000 a year. Health insurance, retirement plan. You start Monday. Livia's brain stuttered on the number, 90,000. She'd been making barely 22. That's too much, she said. It's what the position pays. No one pays an assistant $90,000 to answer phones. I do. He walked around the desk, picked up a folder, handed it to her. Employment contract. Take it home. Read it. If you have questions, call me. If you want the job, sign it and bring it back Monday morning. She took the folder. Her hands were shaking again. Why are you doing this? The question came out quieter than she meant. Damien looked at her for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, less controlled, more raw. Because 2 nights ago, I watched you bleed onto broken glass while everyone in that restaurant looked at you like you were nothing. And you didn't cry. You didn't beg. You just kept cleaning up the mess like it was your fault for existing in their space. He paused. I've spent my whole life around people who take and never question whether they have the right. You reminded me that not everyone is like that. Livia didn't know what to say to that. She stood. The folder felt heavy in her hands. I'll read it, she said. Good. She made it halfway to the door before her curiosity got the better of her. The bracelet, she said, turning back. You were looking at it. At the restaurant. Why? For the first time, Damien looked caught off guard. His eyes dropped to her wrist, where the thin silver chain caught the light. The charm that hung from it was small and tarnished, a tiny key her mother had given her when she was 16. My father had a safe, he said slowly, before he died. No one could open it. The keyhole had a strange design, same shape as that charm. Livia's skin went cold. That's not possible. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But he didn't sound convinced. My mother gave this to me. It was hers. She said it was from her grandmother. There's no way it has anything to do with your family. Probably not, Damien agreed. But his eyes said something different. The silence stretched too long. I should go, Livia said. The car will take you home. She left before he could say anything else, her mind racing. The bracelet had belonged to her mother. Before that, to her grandmother. A family heirloom from people who'd had nothing to do with criminals or Chicago or any of this. It was a coincidence. Had to be. But she couldn't stop thinking about the way Damien had looked at it, like he'd seen a ghost. Ching. She read the contract that night, every word. It was exactly what he'd said. Nothing illegal, nothing that would make her culpable. The salary was real. The benefits were real. It was a way out. She signed it at 3 a.m, her hand cramping around the pen. Monday morning, she walked into that glass tower wearing the only professional clothes she owned and carrying the signed contract like a shield. The receptionist smiled at her. Welcome aboard, Miss Vale. Livia's new life started with a desk outside Damien's office and a computer she barely knew how to use. By noon, she'd figured out the filing system. By end of day, she'd scheduled 2 weeks' worth of meetings. Damien watched her work with those cold, analytical eyes, and Livia tried very hard not to think about the fact that she'd just tied herself to a man who could destroy her life with a phone call. The days blurred together. She learned the rhythms of the office, learned which calls to put through immediately and which to defer, learned that Damien took his coffee black and rarely ate lunch, learned the names of the men who came and went through his office, some in expensive suits, some looking like they'd crawled out of the docks. She didn't ask questions. 2 weeks in, a package arrived at her desk. No return address. Inside was a designer dress. Black, elegant, her exact size. A note. Foundation Gala Saturday, 7 p.m. Car will pick you up at 6:30. D. She stared at it, then at her desk phone. Then she picked it up and called his extension. Yes? His voice through the speaker. I'm not going to a gala with you. It's not with me. It's for work. I need someone there who can keep track of names and faces. Take notes. You'll be compensated for the overtime. Get someone else. There's no one else I trust. The word trust hit different than it should have. Damien. 6:30, Livia. Don't argue. He hung up. She looked at the dress, then at her reflection in the dark computer screen. Then she took the dress home and hung it in her closet next to the 3 other outfits she owned. Saturday came too fast. The car arrived exactly on time. She wore the dress because she didn't have anything else appropriate. It fit perfectly. She hated how good it felt. They drove north again, this time out of the city proper and into the suburbs where old money lived behind gates and walls. The Karate estate sat on 5 acres overlooking Lake Michigan. The house was more mansion than home, all stone and windows and architectural drama. Cars lined the circular driveway. Women in gowns and men in tuxedos walked toward the entrance like they did this every weekend. Livia felt like an imposter. The driver opened her door. She stepped out. And Damien was there, waiting at the top of the steps in a black tuxedo that made him look even more dangerous than usual. He descended to meet her, eyes traveling over her once. You look... He stopped. Started again. Good. You look good. Don't. Don't what? Whatever this is, I'm here for work, that's all. Something flickered across his face, then it was gone. Of course, he said. Let's go inside. He offered his arm. She didn't take it. They walked into the mansion side by side, and Livia stepped into a world that glittered like broken glass. The mansion swallowed them whole. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings so high they seemed to disappear into shadow. Marble floors reflected everything, the light, the people, the careful masks everyone wore. A string quartet played somewhere Livia couldn't see, the music floating through rooms that smelled like expensive perfume and older money. Damien's hand found the small of her back as they entered the main ballroom. The touch was light, proprietary, and it made her spine stiffen. Don't, she said again, quieter this time. His hand dropped immediately. Force of habit. People expect... I don't care what they expect. A waiter glided past with a tray of champagne. Damien took 2 glasses, offered her one. She didn't take it. You're going to have to at least pretend to enjoy yourself, he said. That wasn't in the job description. Consider it an amendment. She took the glass. Didn't drink from it. The ballroom was filling up fast. Men in tuxedos that cost more than cars. Women dripping in jewelry that could have funded small countries. They moved in clusters, their laughter bright and hollow. Every conversation was a negotiation. Every smile hid teeth. Livia recognized some faces from the news. A state senator, a federal judge, the CEO of a pharmaceutical company currently under investigation for price gouging. They all gravitated toward Damien like he was the sun, and they were desperate for warmth. Mr. Karate. An older man materialized beside them, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. Wonderful event. Your mother has outdone herself. She usually does. Damien's voice was smooth, pleasant, completely artificial. Livia, this is Richard Brennan. He owns half the construction contracts in the city. Richard, this is Livia Vale, my new assistant. Richard's eyes crawled over her in a way that made her skin feel dirty. Assistant, of course. The word dripped with implication. Livia's grip tightened on the champagne flute. She was imagining how it would feel to throw the contents in his face. Probably not great for her employment prospects. She's brilliant with scheduling, Damien continued, and there was something in his voice now, an edge, a warning. Keeps me organized. I'd be lost without her. The message was clear. Back off. Richard's smile didn't waver, but his eyes shifted away from Livia. I'm sure. If you'll excuse me, I see the mayor has arrived. He vanished into the crowd. Charming, Livia muttered. He's useful. That's different. Damien touched her elbow, just barely, just enough to guide her. Come on, there's someone you need to meet. They wove through the crowd. People stepped aside without being asked. Damien moved through the space like he owned it, which Livia was starting to realize he probably did. He led her to a woman standing near the windows overlooking the lake. She was in her 50s, elegant in the way that money and good genetics made possible, wearing a deep red gown that probably cost more than Livia's entire apartment building. Her dark hair was swept up. Diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists. She turned as they approached, and Livia saw where Damien had gotten his eyes. Same gray-blue, same calculated emptiness. Mother, Damien said, this is Livia Vale. Livia, my mother, Isabella Karate. Isabella's gaze swept over Livia in one efficient assessment. Everything from her secondhand shoes to the way she was holding the champagne glass she hadn't drunk from. Miss Vale, Isabella's voice was cultured, precise. Damien tells me you've been invaluable these past few weeks. I answer phones, Livia said. Don't undersell yourself. My son doesn't keep people around unless they serve a purpose. Isabella smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. Damien started to follow. Isabella held up one hand. Alone, darling. I'm sure you have other guests to attend to. For just a second, something that might have been concern flickered across Damien's face. Then it was gone. He looked at Livia, a question in his eyes. She nodded. She could handle this. He walked away, and Livia was left alone with a woman who looked like she ate people for breakfast and picked her teeth with their bones. Isabella started walking toward the terrace doors. Livia followed. Outside, the October air was cold and sharp. The terrace overlooked the lake, black water stretching to a horizon she couldn't see. The music from inside was muffled here, distant. You're wondering why I wanted to speak with you, Isabella said. The thought crossed my mind. My son has made some interesting decisions lately, hiring you as one of them. He needed an assistant. He needs many things. An assistant is not one of them. Isabella turned to face her fully. Let me be direct, Miss Vale. I've looked into you, your background, your history. You're nobody. No family, no connections, no education beyond high school. You were a waitress 3 weeks ago. Livia's jaw tightened. Is there a question in there? Why you? You'd have to ask your son. I'm asking you. The terrace felt colder suddenly. Livia could see her breath. I don't know, she said honestly. He offered me a job. I needed the money, that's all. Is it? Yes. Isabella studied her for a long moment. Then she reached into her clutch and pulled out an envelope, set it on the stone railing between them. $50,000, Isabella said. Cash. Take it and disappear. Find another city. Start over somewhere Damien will never think to look for you. Livia stared at the envelope, at the woman offering it. You're paying me to leave. I'm paying you to make a smart decision. Why? Because my son is dangerous when he wants something. And right now, for reasons I don't understand, he wants you. The words hit harder than they should have. Livia forced herself to breathe normally. He doesn't want me. I work for him. That's all. You believe that? Yes. Then you're naive. Isabella's voice was almost kind now. Almost. Men in my son's position don't bring women to family events unless those women mean something. They don't buy them designer dresses or send cars or look at them the way Damien looks at you. He doesn't. He does. And it's going to get you killed. The certainty in her voice made Livia's blood run cold. This world, Isabella continued, gesturing back toward the mansion, toward the glittering people and the wealth and the carefully maintained illusions, is not kind to people like you. You're a vulnerability, a weakness, and Damien has enemies who would love nothing more than to exploit that. I'm nobody, Livia said, echoing Isabella's earlier words. You said so yourself. You were nobody. You stopped being nobody the moment my son decided you mattered. Isabella pushed the envelope closer. Take the money. Leave before you become a target. Livia looked at the envelope. $50,000. More money than she'd ever seen in one place. Enough to actually start over. Get out of Chicago. Go somewhere warm where winter didn't hurt and people didn't know the karate name. She thought about her apartment with its water stains and broken heater, about working 2 jobs and still barely surviving, about medical bills that would follow her for years. She thought about Damien's office and the way he'd looked at her when he said, "I trust you." She picked up the envelope. Isabella's expression shifted to something that might have been satisfaction. Then Livia handed it back. "No," she said. "Excuse me?" "I said no. I don't want your money. You're making a mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." Livia met Isabella's eyes. "I'm not leaving because you're scared your son might actually care about someone. That's your problem, not mine." For the first time, Isabella's composure cracked, just slightly, just enough to show the steel underneath. "You have no idea what you're refusing to walk away from," she said quietly. "Then I'll find out. And when you do? When the violence you can't even imagine yet comes for you because you're standing too close to him? What then?" "Then I'll deal with it." Isabella laughed. It was a bitter sound. How admirably stupid. She turned and walked back inside, taking the envelope with her. Livia stood alone on the terrace, her heart hammering, her hands shaking from adrenaline and cold. She'd just told one of the most powerful women in Chicago to go to hell, definitely in the running for dumbest decision of her life. She went back inside before she could second-guess herself. The ballroom had gotten more crowded. She'd lost track of Damien in the sea of black tuxedos and evening gowns. She was about to find a corner to hide in when someone touched her arm. Not Damien. The man was younger than him, mid-20s maybe. Same dark hair, same sharp features. But where Damien's eyes were cold and controlled, this man's were bright with something that looked like malice. "You're the new assistant," he said. "Not a question. And you are?" "Lucien Karate, Damien's brother." He smiled. "Want to know a secret?" "Not particularly." "He's going to get you killed." Lucien leaned closer. His breath smelled like whiskey and expensive cologne. "Nothing personal. Just business. People get close to Damien. People end up dead. It's a pattern. Thanks for the warning." "You don't believe me." "I don't know you." "Fair enough." He straightened, still smiling that sharp, unpleasant smile. "But you'll remember this conversation. Later, when things get bad. You'll remember I tried to warn you." He walked away before she could respond. Livia's pulse was racing again. She scanned the crowd, finally spotted Damien near the far wall, deep in conversation with a man she didn't recognize. He looked tense. His shoulders were tight, his jaw set. She started toward him. Halfway there, she felt eyes on her. Looked up. A man was watching her from across the room. Older, maybe 60, with silver hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He was standing with a group of other men, all of them wearing expensive suits and expressions that suggested they'd bought their souls at a discount. The man raised his glass to her, a small gesture, almost imperceptible. Then he looked at Damien, then back at her. The message was clear. "I see you. I know what you are to him." Livia's stomach dropped. She reached Damien. He saw her face and immediately excused himself from his conversation. "What happened?" His hand was on her arm now, his voice low and urgent. "Your mother offered me $50,000 to leave." His expression went very still. "What did you say?" "I said no." Something fierce flashed in his eyes. "And? And your brother told me you're going to get me killed. And some guy across the room is looking at me like I'm a target." The words came out faster than she meant them to. "Damien, what the hell is this? What am I doing here?" He looked at her for a long moment. Then he took her hand and pulled her toward a side door. They ended up in a hallway she hadn't seen before. Quiet. Empty. Wood-paneled walls and old portraits of dead Caritas staring down at them with judgment in their painted eyes. Damien let go of her hand and paced 3 steps away, ran his fingers through his hair, turned back. "This was a mistake," he said. "Which part?" "Bringing you here. Putting you in front of them." He looked genuinely angry at himself. I don't know what I thought, that having you here would make this bearable, that you'd just blend in and no one would notice." "People noticed." "Yeah, He laughed, harsh and humorless. They did. Who was the man? The one watching me? Damien's jaw tightened. Vincent Marcello. He runs the South Side. He's been trying to expand into karate territory for 6 months. And he's here? At your family's event? Politics. We pretend to be civilized, shake hands, smile, pretend we're not thinking about putting bullets in each other. He looked at her. But you showing up changes things. How? Because now they know you exist, and they'll use that. The fear she'd been pushing down started crawling up her throat. Use it how? Damien stepped closer, close enough that she could see the muscle working in his jaw, the tension in every line of his body. Men like Marcello look for leverage, for weaknesses. They see me with you. They start thinking you're important to me. And if you're important to me, then I'm a target. Yes. The hallway felt too small suddenly, too quiet. So what do we do? Livia asked. I take you home, right now. And on Monday, we pretend this never happened. You go back to answering phones. I go back to keeping my business and my personal life separate like I should have from the beginning. That's not an answer. It's the smart answer. I don't want the smart answer. She was angry now. You hired me. You put me in this position. You don't get to just decide it was a mistake and send me away like I'm a problem that needs solving. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? Trying to keep you alive. The words echoed in the empty hallway. Damien turned away, braced his hands against the wall, breathing hard. I've been doing this my whole life, he said quietly, managing threats, calculating risks, making sure everyone around me knows exactly how dangerous it is to cross the karate family. And it works. People stay in line. They don't push. They don't test boundaries. He looked back at her. But then you dropped a tray of champagne and swore at me in Italian and looked at me like I was just another asshole in an expensive suit, and I couldn't stop thinking about you. Livia's breath caught. That's a problem, Damien continued, because I don't do this. I don't bring people into my life. I don't let myself want things that can be used against me. And you... He stopped, started again. You're the worst possible thing I could want. Because I'm nobody. Because you're not part of this world. Because you have no protection, no family, no one who'd go to war if something happened to you. His voice cracked slightly. Because if someone wanted to hurt me, you'd be the easiest way to do it. The truth of it settled between them like broken glass. So send me home, Livia said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Pay me for the evening, we'll pretend this was just work. I'll go back to my desk on Monday and we'll be professional. That's what I should do. But you won't. No. He closed the distance between them. I won't. His hand came up to her face, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You should run from me, he said softly. As fast and as far as you can. I know. But you're not going to. No. Why not? She thought about the question, about her tiny apartment and her dead-end jobs and the way she'd been drowning slowly for 2 years. About the feeling of being invisible, disposable, forgotten. Because for the first time since my mother died, she said, someone looked at me and saw a person instead of a problem. Damien's thumb brushed against her cheekbone. You're definitely a problem. Good. The kiss happened without her deciding to let it. Or maybe she decided and her brain just didn't catch up in time. Either way, his mouth was on hers, and her hands were fisting in his shirt, and nothing else mattered except the heat between them and the way he kissed like he was trying to memorize her. It should have been wrong. It was wrong. But it felt like the first right thing she'd done in years. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien rested his forehead against hers. This is going to end badly, he said. Probably. People are going to get hurt. I know. You could still walk away. So could you. He laughed quietly. No, I couldn't. Footsteps echoed at the end of the hallway. They pulled apart just as one of the security guards rounded the corner. Mr. Karate, your mother is looking for you. Tell her I'll be there in a minute. The guard nodded and disappeared. Damien looked at Livia. His expression was complicated. Want and worry and something that looked almost like fear. Stay close to me for the rest of the night, he said. Don't talk to anyone unless I'm with you. And when we leave, you're coming home with me. Damien, not like that. My house has security, cameras, guards. You'll be safe there. He caught her hand. Please. The please did it. Okay, she said. They went back to the ballroom. Damien kept her within arm's reach for the rest of the event. People noticed. The whispers started almost immediately. Livia caught fragments of conversation as they passed. New girl? She a Giordano? Nobody knows who. Betting she's gone in a month. Damien ignored all of it. He introduced her to people whose names she immediately forgot. Made small talk that meant nothing. Smiled and shook hands and played the role of perfect host, while his hand stayed at the small of her back like an anchor. Around 11, Isabella appeared at his elbow. A word, she said to Damien. Not a request. He looked at Livia. Wait here. Wait. They stepped away, just far enough that Livia couldn't hear their conversation, but she could see Isabella's face, see the tight anger in her expression, see the way Damien's shoulders tensed with every word his mother said. The conversation lasted maybe 3 minutes. When Damien came back, his face was completely blank. We're leaving, he said. What did she... Not here. They made it to the front entrance when Lucien materialized in front of them, swaying slightly, definitely drunk. Leaving so soon? He grinned at Livia. Did you get bored with all the polite people pretending not to be criminals? Get out of the way, Lucien, Damien said. Or what? You'll have me thrown out of our mother's party? Lucien laughed. You know what I think? I think you're making a mistake. I think you're going soft. Dad would be ashamed. Damien's hand tightened on Livia's. Move. She's going to ruin you. You know that, right? Lucien leaned closer to Livia. He's got enemies everywhere, and now they're all looking at you and thinking. The sound of Damien's fist connecting with Lucien's face was shockingly loud. Lucien staggered back, blood streaming from his nose, shock and rage fighting for control of his expression. Jesus Christ, someone behind them said. People were staring now. The whole front entrance had gone silent. Damien grabbed Livia's hand and pulled her toward the door. Let's go. They made it to the car. The driver had it running. Damien practically shoved her into the back seat and climbed in after her. Drive, he told the driver. The Bentley pulled away from the mansion. Livia looked back through the rear window. She could see people streaming out onto the steps, could see Lucien being held back by 2 security guards while blood dripped onto his white tuxedo shirt. You just punched your brother, she said. He deserved it. Damien, he was right. Damien's voice was flat. About all of it. This is a mistake. I'm making you a target. I should take you home right now and fire you Monday morning and make sure everyone knows you mean nothing to me. Is that what you want? He looked at her, really looked at her. No, he said. That's the problem. The car drove through the night, away from the mansion, away from the glittering people and the careful lies, toward downtown Chicago and whatever came next. Livia's phone buzzed, a text from a number she didn't recognize. You should have taken the money. VM. Her blood went cold. Damien. She showed him the phone. His expression went from controlled to murderous in half a second. When did you get this? Just now. Vincent Marcello, the man I pointed out earlier. He pulled out his own phone, made a call. Anthony, I need you to pull all security footage from tonight. Focus on anyone who went near Livia Vale. Yes, I know what time it is. Do it anyway. He hung up, made another call. Double the security at my house. No one in or out without my authorization, and I want eyes on Livia's apartment building. If anyone goes near it, I want to know immediately. Another hang-up. His jaw was tight. His knuckles were white where he gripped the phone. How did he get my number? Livia asked. He has people everywhere, police, phone companies. It doesn't matter. Damien looked at her. This is what I was trying to tell you. These people don't play by normal rules. They don't respect boundaries. You're in their world now whether you want to be or not. So what do we do? You stay at my house tonight. Tomorrow, I'm moving you to a secure building. 24-hour security. Controlled access. No one gets near you without going through my people first. I can't afford... I'll cover it. Damien, I'm not... This isn't negotiable. His voice was hard. You're in danger because of me. I'm going to fix it. The car pulled up in front of a building she didn't recognize. Taller than his office building, newer, all glass and sharp angles. Where are we? My place. The driver opened the door. Damien got out first, scanned the street, then helped her out. They walked through a lobby that looked like a luxury hotel. Security guard at the desk. Cameras in every corner. Elevator that required a key card. They rode up in silence. 40 floors. The doors opened directly into his apartment. It was beautiful in that cold, impersonal way expensive places are. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern furniture that looked uncomfortable. Art on the walls that probably cost more than her life. No photographs, no personal touches, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. Guest room is down the hall, Damien said. First door on the left. There's clothes in the closet that should fit, probably. Whose clothes? No one's. My mother keeps the place stocked for emergencies. Of course she did. Livia walked to the windows. The city spread out below them, millions of lights that looked almost peaceful from this height. I'm sorry, Damien said behind her. She turned. He was standing in the middle of his perfect empty apartment, still in his tuxedo, blood on his knuckles from hitting his brother, looking more lost than she'd ever seen him. For what? She asked. All of it. Bringing you into this. Putting you in danger. Being selfish enough to want you anyway. I could have said no, multiple times. I didn't. You should have. Maybe. She walked toward him. But I'm tired of doing what I should. I spent 2 years doing everything right, working myself to death, trying to save someone who was going to die anyway, being careful and responsible and good. And where did it get me? She stopped in front of him. Nowhere, she answered herself. So maybe making bad decisions is exactly what I need. His hand came up to her face again, thumb brushing across her lower lip. I can't promise I'll keep you safe, he said quietly. I know. I can't promise this won't destroy you. I know that too. Then why are you still here? She thought about it, about the way he'd looked at her in that restaurant, about the job offer that saved her life, about $50,000 she'd refused because walking away felt worse than staying, about the kiss in the hallway that felt like falling and flying at the same time. Because you're the first person who's made me feel like I exist in years, she said, and I'm not ready to give that up yet. His eyes went dark. Livia. His phone rang. He closed his eyes. I have to take this. I know. He answered it, walked toward the windows. His voice dropped low, serious, speaking in rapid Italian. Livia couldn't understand most of it, but she caught a few words. Problema, docs, blood. He hung up, turned to face her. I have to go, he said. What happened? Nothing you need to know about. Damien! Stay here. Don't leave the apartment. I'll be back in a few hours. It's almost midnight. I know. He grabbed his keys, then paused at the door, looked back at her. Lock this behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me. Then he was gone. Livia stood alone in his enormous apartment, overlooking a city that suddenly felt full of threats she couldn't see. She locked the door. Then she walked to the windows and waited for him to come back. He returned 3 hours later. She heard the door open, heard him lock it behind him. She was still at the window. You should be sleeping, he said. She turned. His white shirt was stained dark at the cuff. His jacket was gone. He looked exhausted. Is that blood? She asked. He looked down at his sleeve like he'd forgotten it was there. Yes. Yours? No. She should ask whose, should demand to know what happened, should care that the man she'd just kissed had spent the past 3 hours doing something that left other people bleeding. Instead, she walked across the apartment and took his hand. Come on, she said. She led him to the bathroom, made him sit on the edge of the tub while she unbuttoned his shirt. He didn't argue, didn't ask what she was doing. The blood had soaked through to his undershirt. She pulled both off. His torso was a map of violence, old scars, faded and white, one that looked like a knife wound, another that might have been a bullet graze. She didn't ask about any of them. She turned on the water, ran it warm, wet a washcloth and cleaned the blood from his forearm. He watched her the whole time, silent. When she was done, she dried his skin and said, Who died tonight? No one important. Damien? He looked at her with those cold, empty eyes. 2 of Vincent Marcello's men. They attacked one of our shipments at the harbor, killed 3 of mine. I went to remind him that has consequences. Did you kill them? Yes. The word hung in the air between them. She should be horrified, should run, should do any of the things a sane person would do when confronted with this level of violence. Instead, she said, "Are you okay?" He laughed. It sounded broken. "You're asking if I'm okay?" "Yes. I just killed 2 people." "I know. And you're still here." "Yes." He stood, pulled her against him. His forehead dropped to her shoulder. "I'm not a good man," he said into her neck. "I know. This life I live, it's violent, it's cruel, people die, and I'm the one who decides when and why." "I know. You should be terrified of me." "I am." He pulled back enough to look at her face. "Then why—" She kissed him. This time it was different, slower, deeper, like they both knew this was the point of no return, and neither of them cared anymore. When they broke apart, he was breathing hard. "If you stay," he said, "there's no going back. Do you understand that? My enemies will see you as leverage. My family will see you as a threat. Every day you're with me is a day someone might try to use you to get to me." "I understand. And you're staying anyway." It wasn't a question. "Yes," Livia said. His eyes searched hers, looking for doubt, for fear, for any sign she didn't mean it. He wouldn't find it. "Then God help us both," he whispered, and kissed her like the world was ending, which, in a way, it was. Outside the windows, Chicago glittered and burned, and Livia Vale stopped being nobody. She became Damien Karates, and in his world, that meant she belonged to the violence, the danger, and the darkness. There was no walking away from that. Not anymore. Morning came through floor-to-ceiling windows like an accusation. Livia woke alone in Damien's bed, the sheets still warm where he'd been lying beside her hours ago. She could hear water running in the bathroom. Her dress from the gala was draped over a chair. Her shoes sat neatly by the door like evidence of a crime. She sat up, pulling the sheet around herself, and tried to figure out what the hell she'd just done. The bathroom door opened. Damien emerged in dark slacks and a white dress shirt he was still buttoning. His hair was wet. He looked like he'd slept 3 hours and spent those 3 hours planning a war. "You're awake," he said. "Yeah." He crossed to the bed, leaned down, kissed her forehead. The gesture was so casual, so domestic. It felt wrong coming from a man who'd killed 2 people 12 hours ago. "I have to go to the office," he said. "There's coffee in the kitchen. Help yourself to whatever you need. My driver will take you home whenever you're ready." "That's it?" He paused halfway to the door. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she gestured vaguely at the bed, at herself, at the situation. "And now you're going to work? Like nothing happened?" Something flickered across his face. "Do you want me to stay?" "I want you to acknowledge that this changes things." "It does." He came back, sat on the edge of the bed. "But the world doesn't stop because we made a decision last night. Marcello sent you a threat. That means he's testing boundaries. I need to respond before he thinks I've gone soft." "How?" "You don't want to know." She probably didn't, but she asked anyway. "Tell me." Damien studied her for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm going to shut down 3 of his businesses today. Send a message that touching you has consequences. People will lose jobs. Some will lose more than that. People who had nothing to do with the text. People who work for a man who threatened what's mine." His voice was flat, factual. "That's how this works. You hurt me, I hurt you worse. Otherwise, everyone tries." The casual brutality of it should have shocked her. Maybe it would have 2 weeks ago. Now it just felt inevitable. "Okay," she said. "Okay. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job." He leaned in, kissed her properly this time. "I'll call you later. Don't go back to your apartment. It's not safe anymore. My driver will take you to a hotel. I've already arranged everything." "Damien?" "This isn't negotiable." His hand cupped her face. "Please, let me keep you safe." She nodded. He left. Livia sat in his bed for another 10 minutes, then got up and got dressed. The apartment felt different in daylight, less romantic, more like what it actually was. A fortress. A place built to keep the world out. She found coffee in the kitchen, made herself a cup. stood at the windows overlooking Chicago, and tried to process the fact that her life had just completely changed. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Miss Vale. A woman's voice, smooth, professional. My name is Agent Sarah Chen. I'm with the FBI. I'd like to speak with you about your employment with Damien Karate. Livia's hand tightened on the phone. I'm just his assistant. I know, that's why I'd like to speak with you. You're not in any trouble, but we have some questions that you might be able to help with. I'm not interested. Miss Vale, I understand this is complicated, but the Karate family is under investigation for racketeering, money laundering, and multiple homicides. If you're working for them, you could be implicated even if you're not directly involved. I'm offering you a chance to protect yourself. Fear crawled up Livia's spine. I haven't done anything illegal. I believe you, but proximity is enough for prosecutors. They'll come after everyone close to the operation if they think it'll pressure Damien into taking a deal. A pause. Meet me for coffee. One conversation. If you don't want to talk after that, I'll leave you alone. I need to think about it. You have my number, but Miss Vale, don't wait too long. These things move fast. The line went dead. Livia stood frozen, staring at her phone. The FBI. Jesus Christ. She called Damien. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Same thing. She was about to try a third time when the apartment phone rang. The landline she hadn't even noticed. She picked it up. Hello? Miss Vale. This is Anthony from Mr. Karate's security team. I'm in the lobby. The car is ready whenever you are. Right, the driver, the hotel. I'll be down in 5 minutes, she said. She grabbed her things, took one last look at the apartment, and left. The lobby was busy. People in business suits heading to work, tourists consulting maps, a cleaning crew pushing carts. Anthony was waiting by the door. Older guy, military bearing, the kind of person who noticed everything. Morning, he said. This way. The Bentley was at the curb. He opened the door. She climbed in. They pulled into traffic. Chicago moved around them, cabs and buses and people who had normal lives with normal problems. Where's the hotel? Livia asked. North Side, the peninsula. Mr. Karate has a suite there for situations like this. Of course he did. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You're making a mistake. Call me before you're in too deep. Agent Chen, Livia deleted it, then immediately regretted deleting it. She stared out the window and tried to figure out what the hell she was supposed to do now. The car slowed, then stopped. They weren't at a hotel. They were on a side street in a neighborhood Livia didn't recognize. Industrial buildings, empty lots. The kind of area that looked abandoned, but probably wasn't. This isn't the peninsula, she said. Anthony met her eyes in the rearview mirror. No, it's not. Her pulse spiked. Where are we? Mr. Lucian Karate would like to speak with you. I don't want to speak with him. That's unfortunate. The door beside her opened. 2 men stood there, both big, both looking at her like she was a problem that needed solving. Out of the car, Miss Vale, one of them said. Livia's mind raced. She could scream, could fight, could try to run. But they were in the middle of nowhere, and she was alone, and Anthony had just betrayed her. She got out of the car. They walked her into a warehouse, the kind of place that smelled like oil and rust and things rotting in corners. Lucien was waiting inside, leaning against a table, looking significantly more sober than he had at the gala. His nose was bandaged, bruises colored his cheekbones purple and yellow. Miss Vale, he said pleasantly. Thanks for coming. I didn't have a choice. True, but let's pretend you did. It makes this more civilized. He gestured to a chair. Sit. She didn't move. Sit, he said again. Less pleasant this time. One of the men pushed her toward the chair. She sat. Lucian walked in a slow circle around her. You know what I find interesting? My brother, smart, careful, ruthless Damien, has spent his entire life avoiding exactly this kind of vulnerability. No girlfriends, no attachments, nothing anyone could use against him. He stopped in front of her. And then you show up, a nobody, a waitress, and suddenly he's punching me in the face at our mother's gala. Get to the point. The point is you're a weakness, and I don't like weaknesses in my family, so kill me. The words came out steadier than she felt. Isn't that what you people do? Lucian laughed. You think I want you dead? That's adorable. No, Miss Vale, I want you exactly where you are, close to my brother, trusted by my brother. Because that's how I'm going to destroy him. Ice flooded Livia's veins. Here's what's going to happen, Lucian continued. You're going to go back to Damien, you're going to tell him everything was fine. The driver took you to the hotel, you're safe, nothing to worry about. And then you're going to do exactly what I tell you to do. Or what? Or I show him this. Lucienne pulled out a phone, showed her the screen. It was a photo. Her mother. In the hospital. 3 months before she died. So what, Livia said, but that's my mom. What's that supposed to... He swiped to the next photo. Her mother. Same hospital, same room. But someone else was in the frame now. A man in a dark suit, older, silver hair. Livia's blood turned to ice. She knew that face. Vincent Marcello. What the hell is this? Her voice came out hoarse. Your mother's medical bills, Lucian said conversationally. $400,000. Experimental treatments, round-the-clock care. You couldn't afford any of it, so how did it get paid? Insurance. The hospital said, the hospital lied. Marcello paid for everything, every treatment, every medication, every night in that private room. Lucienne leaned closer. He owned your mother's last 6 months, and now he owns you. That's not possible. It is, and it gets better. He swiped again. This time the photo showed documents, medical records, her mother's name, dates that lined up with her final weeks in the hospital, and at the bottom, a signature authorizing treatment. Not Livia's signature, not her mother's. Someone had forged them. He needed leverage, Lucian said. Marcello's been planning to move against Damien for months, but my brother is careful. No family, no lovers, no pressure points. Until you. He smiled. So Marcello did his research, found you, found your dying mother, paid for treatments that bought her a few extra months, made sure you never knew where the money came from, and then waited. For what? For Damien to notice you, to want you, to care about you. Lucienne straightened, and now here we are. You're the knife Marcello's going to use to gut my brother, unless you work for me instead. Livia's mind was spinning. None of this made sense. If Marcello owns me, why would I work for you? Because Marcello wants Damien dead. I just want him broken. Lucienne's eyes were cold. My brother took over when our father died. He was 26, I was 22. Everyone said I was too young, too reckless, too emotional. So Damien got the empire and I got nothing. 4 years I've watched him run this family like he's the only one who matters. So this is about jealousy. This is about what I'm owed. He grabbed her chin, forced her to look at him. You're going to help me take him down. Feed me information. Tell me his plans, his meetings, his weaknesses. And when the time is right, you're going to help me remove him from power. And if I refuse, then I give this information to Damien. Show him that the woman he's protecting was bought and paid for by his worst enemy. That every moment of your mother's final months was a manipulation designed to put you in his path. Lucienne released her. How do you think he'll react to that? Livia's throat was tight. He'll know I didn't know. Will he? The great Damien Carrady trusting a woman who just happened to end up working for him? A woman whose mother's medical care was mysteriously paid for by his rival? Lucian shook his head. He'll see a conspiracy, a trap, and he'll put a bullet in you before you finish explaining. You're lying. I'm really not. He pulled out another phone, different one. But just to be sure you understand how serious this is, watch this. He played a video. It was surveillance footage, black and white, a hospital corridor, her mother's room. The timestamp showed a date 3 months before her mother died. A man entered the room. Vincent Marcello. He stood by her mother's bed for less than a minute, just watching her sleep. Then he left. The video ended. He visited 6 times, Lucian said. Never spoke to her. Never spoke to hospital staff. Just watched, making sure his investment was paying off. Livia felt sick. So here's the deal, Lucian continued. You work for me. You help me take down Damien, and when it's over, you walk away clean. I'll make sure Marcello never comes near you. You'll have enough money to start over somewhere far from Chicago. You can pretend none of this ever happened. Or I destroy you both. Show Damien the truth, watch him kill you, and then move against him while he's distracted by grief and rage. Lucien smiled. Your choice. Livia's hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. This couldn't be real. It couldn't be. But the photos didn't lie. The video didn't lie. Vincent Marcello had paid for her mother's care, had watched her die, had orchestrated everything to put Livia in Damien's path, and now she was exactly where he wanted her, close enough to destroy him. I need time, she said. You have until tomorrow. Then you start reporting to me or I go to Damien. Lucien gestured to his men. Take her to the hotel. Make sure she understands this conversation stays private. They pulled her out of the chair, walked her back to the car. Anthony was gone. Different driver now. One who didn't look at her at all. They drove to the peninsula, walked her to a suite on the 15th floor. One of them handed her a key card. Mr. Lucien will be in touch, he said. Then they left. Livia stood in the middle of the luxury suite, all marble and soft lighting and amenities she didn't give a damn about, and tried to breathe. Her phone rang. Damien. She stared at it, let it ring 4 times before answering. Hey, she said. Her voice sounded almost normal. You okay? Anthony said he dropped you off an hour ago. Yeah, I'm fine. The suite it's nice, thank you. Good. He sounded distracted. Listen, I'm going to be tied up for a few hours. Business, but I'll come by tonight. We need to talk about next steps, security protocols, where you're going to stay long term. Okay. A pause. You sure you're all right? You sound off. Just tired. Last night it was a lot. I know. Get some rest. I'll see you tonight. Damien. Yeah? She almost told him. Almost said everything. About Lucien, about the photos, about the sick realization that she'd been a pawn this entire time. But Lucien's words echoed in her head. He'll put a bullet in you before you finish explaining. Nothing, she said. I'll see you tonight. She hung up. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her hands and tried to figure out how her life had become this nightmare. Her mother's medical care. $400,000 she'd never questioned because the hospital said insurance covered it. Experimental treatments that should have cost twice that. A private room with a view of the lake, all paid for by a man who wanted to use her as a weapon. And she'd never known. The worst part was that it worked. Damien had noticed her, had wanted her, had brought her into his world thinking she was clean, thinking she was safe. But she was poison, delivered right to his door. Her phone buzzed. Text from Damien. I'm thinking about you. She typed back. Me too. Then she went to the bathroom and threw up. When she was done, she splashed water on her face and looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman staring back. 24 years old, exhausted, terrified, trapped between men who saw her as nothing but a tool. Another text. Unknown number. TikTok, Miss Vale. Tomorrow comes fast. She deleted it. Then she sat on the bathroom floor and let herself cry for the first time since her mother died. Beck. Damien showed up at 8. He looked tired. His shirt was wrinkled. He smelled like cigarette smoke, even though she'd never seen him smoke. Hey, he said, pulling her into his arms. She let herself melt into him for just a second, let herself pretend this was real and uncomplicated and safe. Then she pulled back. What happened today? She asked. Marcello's businesses are shut down. 3 restaurants, 2 clubs, a shipping warehouse. He's bleeding money and credibility. Damien walked to the window. He'll retaliate. Probably soon. I've increased security around all our properties. What about me? He turned. What do you mean? Am I a property now? His jaw tightened. You know that's not what I meant. Do I? Livia? I got a call today from the FBI. She watched his reaction carefully. They want to talk to me about working for you. Damien's expression went very still. What did you tell them? Nothing. I hung up. Good. Don't engage. They're fishing, looking for someone they can flip. And if they come back? They won't. I'll make sure of it. How? You don't want to know. She was so tired of that answer. Stop protecting me from reality. I'm already in it. I want to know what happens if the FBI keeps pushing. Damien studied her for a long moment. Then he said, If they keep pushing, I'll have my lawyers remind them that you're an administrative assistant with no knowledge of family business operations. You're off limits. They'll back off. And if they don't, then we'll deal with it. He crossed to her, took her hands. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you, federal agents included. His certainty should have been comforting. Instead, it made her feel worse, because he was protecting a lie, a woman who didn't exist, someone he thought was innocent and uncomplicated and his. But the truth was so much uglier. Damien, she said quietly, what if I'm not who you think I am? His expression softened. What do you mean? What if... She stopped, started again. What if I'm working for someone else? What if everything about me is a setup designed to get close to you? He smiled, actually smiled. Then you're the world's worst spy. You've had access to my schedule for 2 weeks. You know where I live, you know my security protocols, and the most damaging thing you've done is refuse to drink champagne at a party. I'm serious. So am I. He pulled her closer. I know you, Livia. I know you're angry and stubborn and way too brave for your own good. I know you hate being told what to do. I know you're terrified of needing anyone. His hand cupped her face. And I know you're not working for my enemies, because if you were, you wouldn't be warning me about it. The tenderness in his voice made her want to scream. He didn't know. He thought he did, but he didn't know anything. What if you're wrong? She whispered. I'm not. But what if... He kissed her, slow and deep and certain. When he pulled back, he said, You're mine, Livia. Nothing is going to change that. The words should have felt romantic. Instead, they felt like a death sentence. Eat. He stayed the night. They ordered room service, ate in silence, went to bed, and didn't talk about the fact that everything felt wrong. Around 3 a.m, Livia woke up to find Damien standing at the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian in a voice she'd never heard him use before. Cold, brutal, empty of anything human. He hung up, saw she was awake. Go back to sleep, he said. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. Damien, Marcello just made his move. Bombed one of our clubs on the south side. 3 people dead, 7 injured. His voice was flat. I'm going to kill him. The certainty in those words made her blood run cold. You can't just... I can. I will. He turned to face her. This is what I tried to tell you. This world doesn't have rules. It has consequences. He killed my people. I'm going to kill his. And then what? He kills more of yours? You kill more of his? When does it stop? When one of us is dead. The simplicity of it was terrifying. Damien grabbed his jacket. I have to go. Stay here. Don't leave the hotel. I'll have security outside your door. Where are you going? To remind Vincent Marcello that bombing my businesses has a price. Damien, wait. But he was already gone. Livia sat in the dark hotel room and felt the walls closing in. 3 people dead. More would die before morning. And somewhere in the chaos, Lucian was waiting for her answer. Work for him. Betray Damien. Maybe survive. Or refuse. Tell Damien the truth, and watch him put a bullet in her head when he realized she'd been Marcello's puppet from the beginning. Her phone buzzed. Text from Lucian. Time's up. I need your answer. Now. Her hands shook as she typed back. I need more time. The response came immediately. No. Choose. Him or yourself. She stared at the words, then at the door Damien had just walked through, then at her reflection in the dark window. She'd spent 2 years trying to save her mother, working herself to death, making sacrifices, being good. And it had all been a lie, a manipulation. Her mother's final months bought and paid for by a man who wanted to use her grief as a weapon. She thought about Damien's hand on her face, his certainty that she was good, his belief that she was his. She thought about Lucien's cold smile, the photos, the evidence that would destroy whatever fragile thing she and Damien had built. She thought about the FBI agent's voice on the phone, the warning that proximity was enough to implicate her, and she realized something terrible. There was no good choice here. Every path led to blood, so she might as well choose the one that kept her alive. She typed 3 words. I'll do it. Sent it. Then she turned off her phone and sat in the dark and waited for the consequences to find her. Because they would. They always did. And this time, when they came, she wouldn't be the frightened waitress cleaning broken glass off a restaurant floor. She'd be something worse. A weapon, pointed at the heart of the only man who'd ever made her feel like she mattered. The door to the suite opened. Security, she thought. Damien's men checking on her. But the figure that stepped through wasn't one of Damien's people. It was Vincent Marcello. And he was smiling. "Hello, Livia," he said. "I think it's time we had a conversation about your future." Livia's hand moved before her brain could catch up. She grabbed the lamp from the bedside table and hurled it at Vincent Marcello's head. He dodged. The lamp exploded against the wall behind him, glass and porcelain scattering across the carpet. "That's rude," he said calmly. She was already moving toward the door. He was faster. His hand closed around her arm, yanked her back with enough force to send her stumbling into the dresser. Pain shot through her hip. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," Marcello said. "Your choice." "How did you get in here?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I own half the security company Damien uses. You think he's the only one with people everywhere?" He released her arm, stepped back, hands up in a gesture of false peace. "Relax. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to collect. I don't owe you anything. Your mother's medical care says otherwise. $400,000. That's a lot of debt, Livia." Her stomach twisted. "I didn't ask you to pay for that." "No, you didn't. But I did it anyway. And now it's time for you to return the favor." He walked to the window, looked out at the city like he owned it. "Lucien told you about our arrangement. You work for him, you think you're safe. But here's what he didn't tell you. He works for me." The words hit like a punch. "What?" "Lucien Karate is my investment in the family's future. Has been for 2 years. He feeds me information about Damien's operations. Tells me when shipments are moving, when deals are closing, when vulnerabilities appear." Marcello turned back to her. "And when I needed someone close to Damien, someone innocent, someone he'd trust, Lucien helped me find you." Livia's legs felt weak. She sat on the edge of the bed before they gave out. "You're lying." "I'm not. Why do you think your mother ended up in that specific hospital, that specific oncologist? Lucien arranged the transfer, made sure you were drowning in bills, made sure you were desperate enough that when Damien eventually noticed you, you'd have no choice but to take whatever he offered. Damien noticed me at Vittorio's. That was random." Marcello smiled. "Was it? Who do you think owns Vittorio's? Who made sure you got hired there 3 weeks before Damien had a reservation? Who told the manager to put you on the floor that night?" He paused. "Nothing about this is random, Livia. You were selected, positioned, deployed." She couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. "Why?" The word came out broken. "Because Damien Karate is careful, paranoid. He doesn't let people in. But everyone has a weakness. We just had to create his." Marcello sat in the chair across from her. "And it worked beautifully. He's obsessed with you, protective, distracted. For the first time in 4 years, he's vulnerable. So kill him yourself. Why do you need me?" "Because I don't just want him dead. I want him destroyed. I want him to know that everything he trusted was a lie. That the woman he risked everything for was working for his enemy from the beginning." Marcello leaned forward. "That kind of betrayal breaks a man worse than a bullet." Livia's hands were shaking. "I won't do it." "You already did. The moment you texted Lucien, you committed. Now you're going to finish the job." "No." "Yes." His voice hardened. "Because if you don't, I'll kill him anyway. And then I'll kill you. And then I'll dig up your mother's body and dump it in the lake just to prove a point." The casual cruelty of it stole her breath. "You're a monster," she whispered. "I'm a businessman." "There's a difference." He stood. "Tomorrow night, Damien is meeting with his remaining allies, planning his response to my attack on his club. You're going to tell Lucien where and when that meeting happens. We'll hit them all at once. End this war before it really starts." "I don't know where the meeting is." "You will. He trusts you. He'll tell you." Marcello walked to the door. "You have until tomorrow at 6. Text the location to Lucien. If you don't—" He smiled. "Well, you've seen what I'm capable of when I'm disappointed." He left. The door clicked shut. Livia sat frozen for maybe 10 seconds. Then she ran to the bathroom and threw up everything in her stomach. When there was nothing left, she sat on the tile floor and tried to think. Damien was going to die. Either she helped Marcello kill him, or Marcello did it anyway and killed her too. No way out. No good choice. Just blood and consequences and the wreckage of every decision she'd made since the night she broke those champagne glasses. Her phone was still off. She turned it back on. 17 missed calls from Damien. 3 voicemails. She listened to the first one. "Livia, where are you? Your security detail says someone entered your room. Call me back immediately." Second voicemail, 30 minutes later. His voice was different now, tight with worry. "I'm on my way to the hotel. If you get this before I arrive, stay where you are. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone." Third voicemail, 10 minutes ago. "The hotel says you're not in your room. Where the hell are you? Call me. Now." She checked the timestamp. The calls had come while Marcello was there, while she was too terrified to reach for her phone. She was about to call him back when someone pounded on the door hard enough to rattle the frame. "Livia," Damien's voice. "Open the door." She ran to it, threw it open. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past few hours. His shirt was untucked. His hair was a mess. His eyes were wild with something that looked like fear. He grabbed her, pulled her against him, held on like she might disappear. "Where were you?" His voice was rough. "Security said someone got into your room. I thought—" He didn't finish. "I'm okay," she said into his chest. "I'm fine." Who was it? She should tell him, right now, everything. Marcello, Lucien, the manipulation, the debt, the trap closing around both of them. But if she did, he'd see the truth. That she'd been the weapon all along. That every moment between them had been orchestrated. And then he'd kill her, or worse, he'd look at her the way Isabella had, like she was a problem that needed eliminating. "I don't know," she lied. "They were gone when I woke up. Nothing was taken. Maybe hotel security got the room wrong." Damien pulled back, studied her face. "You're lying." "I'm not. You're terrified. I can feel it." His hands moved to her shoulders. "Tell me what happened." "Nothing happened. I'm just—" Her voice cracked. "I'm scared, okay? People are dying. The FBI is calling me. Your mother tried to pay me to leave. Your brother hates me. And now someone broke into my room. I'm scared, and I don't know what to do." It was all true, just not the truth he needed. Something in his expression softened. "Come here." He pulled her back into his arms. She let herself have it for just a moment. The warmth, the illusion of safety, the feeling that someone gave a damn whether she lived or died. Then she stepped back. "Damien, I can't do this." "Do what?" "This. Us. Any of it." The words tasted like ash. "Your mother was right. I'm a liability. Everyone sees it. Being with you is going to get me killed. No one is going to touch you." "You can't promise that." "I just did." "You're not listening." She was crying now, couldn't stop herself. "I'm nobody. I don't belong in your world. I don't know the rules. I don't know who to trust. I'm going to make a mistake and it's going to cost you everything. Livia, I want to go home, my real home, my apartment. I want to quit my job and disappear and pretend none of this ever happened." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he said very quietly, "Is that what you really want?" No. She wanted to tell him the truth, wanted to warn him about Marcello and Lucien, wanted to find a way through this nightmare that didn't end with both of them dead. But there was no way through. There was only survival. And right now, keeping Damien at a distance was the only chance she had of keeping him alive. "Yes," she said. "That's what I want." Pain flickered across his face. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold mask she'd seen him wear around everyone else. "Fine," he said. "I'll have someone pack up your things from the office. You'll get 2 months severance. After that, you're on your own. Damien, we're done here." He turned toward the door. She grabbed his arm. "Wait." He stopped, didn't turn around. "There's a meeting," she said. The words came out before she could stop them, before she could think about what they meant. "Tomorrow night, you're meeting with your allies to plan your response to Marcello. Where is it?" He turned slowly. "Why do you want to know?" "Because if I'm leaving, I want to know you're safe. I want to know you have a plan. You don't need to worry about that anymore. Just tell me." He studied her. She could see him calculating, weighing trust against suspicion. "The warehouse district," he finally said. "South side. 8 o'clock. My uncle's old shipping facility. It's secure. We've used it for years." The information settled in her stomach like poison. That was what Marcello wanted. What Lucien was waiting for. The location, the time, the perfect opportunity to end Damien and everyone loyal to him in one coordinated strike. And she'd just asked for it. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For trusting me. Even when you shouldn't." Something flickered in his eyes. "Livia?" "Goodbye, Damien." She closed the door between them, stood there with her hand on the wood, listening to him stand on the other side for 30 seconds that felt like hours. Then his footsteps retreated down the hall. She waited until she couldn't hear them anymore. Then she picked up her phone and did the thing she knew would damn her forever. She texted Lucien the location, Southside Warehouse District, 8 p.m. tomorrow, Damien's uncle's old shipping facility. The response came immediately. "Good girl, stay put. Someone will come get you when it's done." She dropped the phone like it burned her. Then she sat on the floor and stared at what she'd just done. In 24 hours, Damien would walk into that warehouse. Marcello's people would be waiting, and everyone Damien trusted would die. Because of her. The girl who just wanted to survive. Who'd taken a job because she was desperate. Who'd fallen for a man she should have run from. The weapon, deployed exactly as planned. She thought about running, about leaving Chicago tonight, getting on a bus or a train and disappearing somewhere Marcello would never find her. But he'd find her. Men like him always did. And then he'd kill her slowly for betraying him. No. There was only one way through this now. She had to warn Damien, even if it meant he'd kill her for what she'd done. Even if it meant Marcello would come for her after. Even if it meant destroying the last shred of trust between them. He deserved to know. She grabbed her phone, started to dial his number, then stopped. What if he didn't believe her? What if he thought this was another manipulation? What if he thought she was working with Marcello and this was all part of the plan? She needed proof, evidence, something that would make him listen before he put a bullet in her head. She needed to get to Lucien, force him to confess on recording, get him to admit he was working with Marcello. Give Damien something concrete he couldn't dismiss. It was insane, dangerous, probably suicidal, but it was the only option left. She grabbed her jacket, checked the hallway. Empty. Security was gone. Of course it was. Marcello owned them. She took the elevator down, walked through the lobby like she belonged there, out onto the street where Chicago's November wind cut through her jacket and made her eyes water. A car was waiting at the curb. Black SUV, tinted windows. The back door opened. Lucien sat inside, smiling. "Going somewhere?" he asked. Her blood went cold. "How did you—" "I've been watching the hotel since Marcello left. Figured you'd try something stupid." He gestured to the seat beside him. "Get in." "No. Get in or my driver puts a bullet in you right here on the street. Your choice." She got in. The door closed. The SUV pulled into traffic. Lucien looked her over. "You told Damien, didn't you, about the warehouse?" "Yes." "And now you're trying to warn him it's a trap?" "Yes," he laughed. "You're predictable. Marcello said you would be." "Then why let me leave the hotel?" "Because watching you squirm is entertaining, and because—" He pulled out a gun, not pointed at her, just resting on his lap. "I wanted to have this conversation in private." Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "What conversation?" "The one where I explained that you have one chance to survive the next 24 hours. And that chance involves doing exactly what I tell you." "I already told you the location. What else do you want?" "I want you to be there, at the warehouse, with Damien." Lucien's smile widened. "I want you standing next to him when Marcello's people come through the door. I want him to see you there, to know you set him up, to die knowing the woman he loved was the one who destroyed him." "No." "Yes, or I call Marcello right now and tell him you're trying to flip. He kills Damien tonight, kills you tomorrow, and everything you've done to try and save him becomes meaningless. You're going to kill him anyway." "True. But this way, you get to watch. And maybe, if you're very lucky, Marcello will let you live after. He likes having useful people around." Lucienne leaned closer. Useful people who know how to follow orders. The gun moved, just slightly, just enough to point at her stomach. So here's what's going to happen, he continued. Tomorrow at 8, you're going to show up at that warehouse. You're going to tell Damien you changed your mind, that you can't leave him, that you want to help. His finger rested on the trigger. And when Marcello's people come through that door, you're going to make sure Damien sees your face. Make sure he understands. Then you're going to run, and you're going to let them finish him. And if I don't, then I shoot you right now and dump your body in the river. His voice was pleasant, conversational. Your choice. Livia looked at the gun, at his finger on the trigger, at the absolute certainty in his eyes that he'd pull it without hesitation. She thought about Damien, about the way he'd held her like she mattered, about his belief that she was good. She thought about her mother, about the debt that had bought her final months, about the manipulation that had shaped everything after. She thought about this girl who'd broken champagne glasses on a restaurant floor and how far away that girl felt now. Then she said, "Okay?" Lucien's smile returned. "Smart choice." "I have one condition." His expression darkened. "You're not in a position to negotiate." "I am. Because if I show up at that warehouse looking terrified, Damien will know something's wrong. He'll suspect a trap. Everything falls apart." She forced herself to meet his eyes. "But if you give me what I want, I'll sell it. I'll make him believe I chose him, make him trust me completely, make sure he never sees it coming." Lucien considered this. "What's the condition?" "After it's done. After Damien's dead. You leave me alone, no more jobs, no more threats. I walk away clean. Marcello won't agree to that. Then convince him. Tell him I'm more valuable alive than dead. That I know things about Damien's operations, that I can help clean up the aftermath." She was making it up as she went. "But I need your word. After tomorrow, I'm free." Lucien studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed. "You've got spine. I'll give you that." He lowered the gun. "Fine. You do this right, make it convincing, and I'll talk to Marcello. Maybe he lets you walk, maybe he doesn't, but I'll try." It was the best she was going to get. "Deal," she said. "Good." Lucien knocked on the partition. The driver pulled over. "Get out. Be at that warehouse tomorrow at 7:45. Not earlier, not later." "And Livia?" She had the door open. "What?" "If you try to warn him, if you do anything that compromises this operation, I will personally make sure you die screaming. Understood?" "Understood." She got out. The SUV drove away. She stood on a street corner in downtown Chicago and tried to figure out what the hell she was going to do. 24 hours. That's all she had. 24 hours to find a way to save Damien without getting both of them killed. She pulled out her phone, stared at his number. One call. That's all it would take. Tell him everything. About Marcello, about Lucien, about the trap waiting at the warehouse. But Lucien was watching, had people everywhere. The moment she made that call, they'd know. And then Damien would die tonight instead of tomorrow. No, she needed a different play. She needed help. Real help. Someone who could move against Marcello without tipping off Lucien. Her phone buzzed. Text from the unknown number that had called days ago. Agent Chen. "Miss Vale, if you're ready to talk, I'm ready to listen. Whatever you're involved in, we can protect you. But you need to reach out before it's too late." Livia stared at the message. The FBI. They wanted to bring down the Karate family. Had been building a case for months. What if she gave them something better? What if she gave them Vincent Marcello and Lucien Karate on a silver platter? She typed fast before she could second-guess herself. "I have information about an attack planned for tomorrow night. Multiple homicides. Organized crime. I'll tell you everything, but I need protection, and I need you to move fast." The response came in seconds. "Where are you? I'll come to you." Livia gave her location. Then she waited. 15 minutes later, a sedan pulled up. The woman who got out was mid-30s, Asian, wearing a dark suit and an expression that said she'd seen every kind of trouble humanity could produce. "Livia Vale?" she said. "Agent Chen?" "Get in." Livia climbed into the passenger seat. The car smelled like coffee and old takeout. Chen drove 3 blocks before speaking. "Talk," she said. Everything. And don't leave anything out. So Livia talked. She told her about Marcello paying for her mother's care, about being positioned at Vittorio's, about Damien hiring her, about Lucien working for Marcello, about the warehouse, about the attack planned for tomorrow at 8. She told her everything except the part where she'd already given Lucien the location. Chen listened without interrupting. When Livia finished, she said, "You realize what you're describing is a conspiracy to commit murder." "Yes." "And you're an accessory." "I know." "So why are you telling me this?" "Because Damien Karate is a criminal, but he doesn't deserve to walk into a slaughter. And because Marcello and Lucien are going to keep killing people until someone stops them." Livia looked at her. "You want to bring down the Karatis? Here's your chance. You stop this attack, you'll have witnesses, evidence, everything you need." Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What do you get out of this?" "Immunity, protection, and Damien lives." "That's a tall order. Then I guess you need to decide how badly you want Marcello and Lucien." Chen pulled over, turned to face her. If I put together a tactical response for tomorrow night, you're going to wear a wire. You're going to get Lucien or Marcello on recording confirming the plan, and you're going to testify against both of them in court." "And Damien?" "He's still going to face charges, but he'll be alive to face them." Chen's expression was hard. "That's the best I can offer." It wasn't enough, but it was something. "Okay," Livia said. "I'll do it." "Good. I'm taking you to a safe house. You stay there until tomorrow. At 7, I'll wire you up and brief you on the operation. You go into that warehouse, get the confession, and get out. My team will be in position to move the moment things go sideways. And if they don't believe me, if Lucien suspects I'm wired, then you're probably going to die." Chen's voice was matter of fact. "But you were probably going to die anyway. At least this way you take them down with you." Livia laughed. It sounded slightly hysterical. "Great pep talk." "I don't do pep talks. I do reality." Chen started the car again. "Last chance to back out." Livia thought about Damien's face when he'd held her tonight, about the certainty in his voice when he said no one would hurt her, about the warehouse where he'd die tomorrow if she didn't stop it. "I'm in," she said. "Then buckle up. The next 24 hours are going to be hell." The safe house was an apartment in a neighborhood Livia didn't recognize. 2 agents stayed with her through the night. Neither spoke much. She didn't sleep, just sat on a couch that smelled like cigarettes and tried to prepare herself for what came next. At 6 the next morning, Chen showed up with coffee and a wire so small it was almost invisible. "This goes under your shirt," she said. "It'll pick up everything within 15 feet. Don't touch it. Don't adjust it. Just wear it and try not to get shot." "What happens if they search me?" "Pray they don't." Chen spent the next hour walking her through the plan, where to stand, what to say, how to get Lucien talking. At 7:30, they put her in a car. At 7:40, they dropped her 3 blocks from the warehouse. "My team is in position," Chen said. "The moment we have confirmation of the attack, we move. You get clear and let us handle it." "What about Damien?" "We'll try to minimize casualties, but I can't promise anything." It wasn't good enough. But it was all she had. Livia got out of the car and walked toward the warehouse. The south side was quiet this time of night. Industrial buildings, empty lots, no witnesses. Perfect place for a massacre. The warehouse loomed ahead. Old brick, broken windows, a single light burning inside. She checked her watch, 7:45. Right on time. She pushed open the door and stepped into hell. The warehouse was colder inside than out. Concrete floors. Metal beams crisscrossing overhead like the ribs of some dead industrial beast. The single light came from a bare bulb hanging in the center of the space, casting everything in harsh shadows. Damien stood beneath it with 5 other men. She recognized 2 of them from the gala. Older, dangerous looking, the kind who'd survived decades in this business by being smarter and meaner than everyone else. He saw her immediately. His expression shifted through surprise, confusion, and something that might have been hope before settling on careful neutrality. "Livia," his voice carried across the empty space. "What are you doing here?" She walked toward him, every step feeling like walking toward her own execution, the wire pressed against her skin under her shirt. Chen and her team were listening to every word. I couldn't leave, she said. Her voice sounded almost normal. I tried. I got halfway to the bus station and realized I was running from the only thing that's felt real in years. One of the older men laughed. You brought your girlfriend to a war council? She's not... Damien stopped himself, looked at her. This isn't safe. You need to go. I'm not going anywhere. She stopped a few feet from him, close enough to see the exhaustion etched into his face, the blood on his knuckles from violence she hadn't witnessed. I know you're planning something. I know Marcello's coming for you, and I want to help. You can't help with this. Then let me be here. Let me... Her voice cracked perfectly. She wasn't even acting anymore. Let me be with you, even if it's just for tonight. Something in his eyes softened. He looked at the other men. Give us a minute. They moved to the far side of the warehouse, out of earshot, but still watching. Damien stepped closer to her. How did you know where to find me? You told me. Last night. The warehouse district. Your uncle's old facility. I didn't think you were listening. I'm always listening. She reached for his hand. The wire picked up the sound of their fingers interlacing. Damien, I'm scared. But I'm more scared of losing you than I am of what comes next. He pulled her against him. This is insane. You being here is insane. I know. If Marcello shows up, then we deal with it together. He held her for a long moment. She could feel his heart beating against her chest, could smell gunpowder and expensive cologne and the metallic tang of old blood on his clothes. The door at the far end of the warehouse opened. They both turned. Lucien walked in alone, hands in his pockets, smiling like he'd just won something. Well, well, he said. The gang's all here. Damien's body went tense. What are you doing here? Coming to save your life, actually. Lucien kept walking toward them. Got some interesting information about Marcello's plans. Thought you'd want to hear it. From who? Sources. Lucien's eyes flicked to Livia. Loyal sources who know the value of family. The way he said it made her stomach drop. He was playing this perfectly, making it look like he was on Damien's side right up until the moment Marcello's people came through the door. Damien's hand moved to the gun at his hip. Since when do you care about saving my life? Since I realized that losing you would be bad for business. You're an arrogant bastard, but you're good at this. Better than I'd be. Lucien stopped 10 feet away. So here I am, offering intelligence. Marcello's planning to hit this location tonight, probably in the next 10 minutes. One of the older men swore. How the hell did he know we'd be here? Someone talked. Lucien looked directly at Livia. Someone close to Damien who had access to his schedule, his plans, his trust. Damien's hand tightened on hers. What are you saying? I'm saying your girlfriend is a plant. Marcello's been using her from the beginning. Her mother's medical bills, he paid them. Her job at Vittorio's, he arranged it. Everything about her is a setup designed to get her close to you. The warehouse went deadly silent. Damien turned to look at her. That's not true. Ask her. Lucien's smile widened. Go on. Ask her if Marcello paid for her mother's cancer treatment. Livia's throat closed. The wire was picking up everything. Chen was hearing this. The operation was about to go sideways. Damien, she started. Did he? Damien's voice was very quiet, very controlled. Did Marcello pay for your mother's care? She could lie, could deny everything, buy herself maybe 30 seconds before the truth came out anyway. Or she could tell him the truth and hope he listened long enough to understand. Yes, she said. The word hit like a gunshot. Damien dropped her hand like it burned, stepped back. The expression on his face was something she'd never seen before, raw, wounded, completely unguarded. Did you know? He asked. Not at first, I swear. I didn't know until 2 days ago. But you've known for 2 days. And you didn't tell me. I was trying to protect you. By lying? His voice was rising now. By standing here pretending you came back because you care about me when really you're... What? Here to set me up? To make sure Marcello's people find me? No. I'm here to warn you. I'm here to finish the job. Lucien's voice cut through. She gave me this location yesterday. texted it to me so Marcello would know exactly where to find you. Damien's gun was out now, pointed at her chest. Is that true? His hand was shaking. Did you give him this location? Livia looked at the gun, at his finger on the trigger, at the absolute betrayal in his eyes. Yes, she whispered. But I'm wearing a wire. The FBI is listening right now. I'm trying to get Lucien to confess so they can arrest him and Marcello before anyone dies. For a second, nobody moved. Then Lucien laughed. She's wired? That's beautiful. That's perfect. He pulled out his phone. Marcello, change of plans. The FBI's here. Send everyone in now. No! Livia lunged for the phone. Lucien backhanded her. She went down hard, tasting blood. Damien's gun swung toward his brother. You're working with Marcello? For 2 years. How do you think he stayed one step ahead of you this whole time? Lucien's smile was vicious now. Every move you made, I told him. Every weakness, every vulnerability. I've been bleeding you dry while you congratulated yourself on being so careful. Why? Because you took what was mine. The family. The power. Everything Dad promised me before he decided you were the better son. Lucien's voice cracked. You stole my life, so I'm taking yours. The warehouse doors exploded inward. Men poured through, 10, maybe 15. Armed. Moving with military precision. Marcello's people. Gunfire erupted instantly. The older men scattered, returning fire, using the metal beams as cover. The bare bulb shattered, plunging everything into near darkness, broken only by muzzle flashes. Livia stayed flat on the concrete, hands over her head, while bullets tore through the air above her. Someone grabbed her arm. Damien, he yanked her toward cover behind a stack of old crates. Stay down, he shouted over the gunfire. Damien, I don't want to hear it. He leaned out, fired 3 times, dropped back. You lied to me. You set me up. You're working for the FBI. I'm trying to save you. By getting us all killed. More gunfire. Something exploded. A gas canister, maybe. Smoke started filling the warehouse. Through the chaos, Livia heard Chen's voice in her earpiece. She'd forgotten about the earpiece. Federal agents, drop your weapons. New people flooded into the warehouse. FBI, armed and armored. Chen was leading them, her voice cutting through the chaos. Everyone on the ground, now! The shooting intensified. Marcello's people weren't surrendering. Neither were Damien's men. It was a 3-way firefight with bodies everywhere and smoke so thick Livia could barely breathe. She lost track of Damien in the chaos. Someone stumbled past her, bleeding. Someone else screamed. Metal rang as bullets ricocheted off the beams. Then she saw him. Lucien, moving through the smoke toward the back exit, running. She didn't think, just moved. She caught up to him at the door, grabbed his jacket. You bastard, she said. You destroyed everything. He spun. His fist caught her jaw. She went down again, vision blurring. He stood over her, gun in his hand now, pointed at her face. You stupid bitch. You actually thought you could save him, thought you mattered. His finger tightened on the trigger. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. The gunshot was deafening, but Livia didn't feel it. Lucien staggered backward, a red bloom spreading across his chest. His gun clattered to the floor. Behind him, Damien stood with his weapon raised, smoke curling from the barrel. His face was a mask of something beyond anger, beyond pain. That's my brother, Damien said quietly, and you don't get to kill her. Lucien collapsed. Blood pooled beneath him on the concrete. Damien lowered his gun, looked at Livia. Are you okay? She nodded, couldn't speak. Good. He turned away. Stay here. This isn't over. He walked back into the chaos. Livia pulled herself to her feet. Her jaw throbbed. Her whole body ached. The gunfire was dying down now. The FBI had the advantage. Better training, better equipment. Marcello's people were either dead or surrendering. She pushed through the smoke, looking for Damien, found him facing Vincent Marcello near the center of the warehouse. Both of them had guns. Neither was shooting yet. It's over, Damien said. FBI's here. Your people are done. You're done. Marcello smiled. Blood ran from a wound on his shoulder, but he seemed unbothered. You think this ends anything? I'll be out in 6 months. My lawyers will get me a deal, but you... He gestured at Livia. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering if she really came back for you or if she was playing you the whole time. She gave you to the FBI after she gave you to me first, after she stood in this warehouse and lied to your face, after everything. Marcello's smile widened. That doubt will eat you alive. Every time you look at her, you'll wonder what's real and what's performance. You'll never trust her again. You'll never trust anyone again. Shut up, Damien said. Truth hurts, doesn't it? I said shut up. Make me. Damien's gun came up. Don't! Livia's voice cut through. Don't give him that. He wants you to kill him. Wants you to prove you're the monster he says you are. Damien didn't lower the gun. He tried to kill you. I know, but if you kill him now, in front of the FBI, you're done. They'll arrest you, charge you with murder. Everything you've built will be gone. Maybe that's better than living with what he's right about. He's not right. She walked toward him slowly. Hands up, non-threatening. I lied to you, I did. But I came here tonight to save you, not destroy you. Everything after I learned the truth, every choice I made was about keeping you alive. You gave Lucien this location, so I could give the FBI Marcello and Lucien together, so I could end this without you dying. She stopped a few feet away. I'm not saying I'm innocent. I'm not. But I'm not the enemy. Damien's hand was shaking. The gun wavered between Marcello and Livia like he couldn't decide who deserved the bullet more. Chen appeared out of the smoke. Damien Carradi, lower your weapon. FBI can wait, Damien said. FBI can't wait. Lower it now or my agents will drop you. Red laser sights appeared on Damien's chest, 3 of them, maybe more. He looked at them, then at Marcello, then at Livia. Then he lowered the gun. Chen's people swarmed immediately. They had Marcello on the ground in seconds, cuffing him, reading him his rights. More agents moved toward Damien. He let them take his weapon, let them push him to his knees. Damien Carradi, you're under arrest for... I know what I'm under arrest for. His eyes never left Livia's face. Just get it over with. They cuffed him, started to pull him toward the exit. Wait, Livia said. Agent Chen, please. Chen walked over. What? Give me a minute, just 1 minute with him. Absolutely not. Please. You have what you wanted. Marcello, Lucien, evidence of the conspiracy. Just give me 60 seconds. Chen looked at her for a long moment. Then she sighed. 1 minute, that's all. She gestured to her agents. They stepped back, gave them space. Livia walked to where Damien knelt on the concrete, knelt beside him so they were eye level. I'm sorry, she said. For which part? All of it. For lying. For being weak. For not trusting you with the truth sooner. Her voice cracked. For falling in love with you when I knew it would end like this. His expression shifted. Don't. Don't what? Don't say you love me. Not now. Not after everything. Why not? It's true. Because it makes this harder. His eyes were red. Because I spent the last 48 hours terrified I was going to lose you, and then I found out everything between us was built on a lie. And now they're arresting me, and I'm going to spend the next decade in prison, and you're... what? Free? Moving on with your life like none of this happened? I'm not moving on. I'm going to testify. Against Marcello, against Lucien. I'm going to make sure they both go down for what they did. That doesn't fix what you did. I know. Tears were streaming down her face now. But maybe it's a start. Time's up, Chen said. The agents moved forward, pulled Damien to his feet. He looked back at her one last time. I don't know if I can forgive you for this. I know, Livia said, but I'm going to try to earn it anyway. They took him away. Chen helped Livia to her feet. You need medical attention. Your jaw is swelling. I'm fine. You're not. Come on. They walked out of the warehouse into the cold Chicago night. Ambulances and police cars filled the street. Bodies were being loaded into coroners' vans. Survivors were being treated by paramedics. Lucien Carradi was one of the bodies. He'd bled out before anyone could save him. Livia felt nothing looking at his covered form, just emptiness. You did good tonight, Chen said. You gave us everything we needed. Marcello will go away for the rest of his life. The karate organization is finished. And Damien? He'll face charges. RICO, conspiracy, probably a dozen other things. But he's not a killer. Not tonight anyway. His lawyers will work out a deal. How long? 5 years if he's lucky. 10 if he's not. 10 years. A decade of his life gone because she'd been too scared to tell him the truth when it mattered. I want to testify, Livia said, about everything. Marcello, Lucien, the manipulation, all of it. You'll have to. You're a material witness. Good. She looked at Chen. And when it's over, when they're both convicted and Damien served his time, I want you to tell him something for me. What? Tell him I waited. Chen's expression softened. You know there's no guarantee he'll want anything to do with you when he gets out. I know, but I'm going to wait anyway. The trial took 8 months to prepare. Livia testified for 3 days straight, told the jury everything about Marcello's manipulation, about the medical bills, about Lucien's betrayal, about the trap that had nearly killed everyone in that warehouse. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcello got life without parole. The federal prosecutor wanted to go after Damien harder, but Chen kept her word. She made sure the DA understood that Damien had been a victim too, manipulated by his own brother, targeted by his enemies. He took a plea deal. 7 years. Eligible for parole in 5. Livia wasn't allowed to attend his sentencing, wasn't allowed to write him, wasn't allowed any contact at all per the terms of her witness protection agreement. But she kept track anyway. Through Chen, through news articles, through the grapevine that existed even when you tried to disappear. She learned he was sent to a federal facility in Pennsylvania, that he kept his head down, that he was a model prisoner. She learned that Isabella Carati had been arrested 6 months after Damien. Conspiracy charges. She took a deal too, 3 years. The Carati empire collapsed without leadership. Properties were seized. Businesses were shuttered. The family that had ruled Chicago for 3 generations disappeared almost overnight. And Livia went back to school. She finished her nursing degree, got a job at a children's hospital in a city far from Chicago, rented a small apartment with a window that got morning sun, built a life that was quiet and normal and utterly unlike the chaos she'd survived. But she never forgot, never stopped counting the days. 5 years became 4. 4 became 3. 3 became 2. And then one cold morning in November, exactly 7 years after that night in the warehouse, Livia got a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? It's me. 2 words. That's all it took for her heart to start racing. Damien. Where are you? She asked. Philadelphia. I got out this morning. Are you okay? I don't know yet. Still figuring that out. A pause. Can I see you? She'd been waiting 7 years to hear that question. Yes, she said. When? Now. If you're still in Baltimore. How did you know I was in Baltimore? I have my ways. She could hear the almost smile in his voice. There's a coffee shop on Charles Street, near the hospital. Can you meet me there in an hour? I'll be there in 30 minutes. She hung up, stared at her phone, then she grabbed her jacket and ran. But the coffee shop was nearly empty when she arrived. Just a few students with laptops and an older couple reading the paper. And Damien. He sat at a corner table wearing jeans and a plain gray sweatshirt. His hair was shorter than she remembered. He'd lost weight. There were new lines around his eyes. But it was him. She walked over. Her hands were shaking. Hi. Hi. He stood. They stood there awkwardly for a second, neither sure how to bridge 7 years of silence. Then she threw her arms around him and held on like he might disappear. He held her back just as tightly. I'm sorry, she said into his chest. I'm so sorry for everything. I know. I am too. They sat. Ordered coffee, neither of them drank. You look good, Damien said. Different, but good. So do you. Older. 7 years will do that. He smiled slightly. I heard you finished nursing school, that you're working with kids. Yeah, it's good work. Feels right. I'm glad. They sat in silence for a minute. I thought about you every day, Livia said quietly. For 7 years. I thought about what I'd say if I ever got to see you again. And now you're here, and I can't remember any of it. You don't have to say anything. Yes, I do. You deserve... She stopped, started again. I destroyed your life. Everything you had. Your family, your business, your freedom. Because I was too scared to tell you the truth when it mattered. You saved my life, Damien said, that night in the warehouse. If you hadn't brought the FBI, Marcello would have killed me, killed everyone there. That doesn't make up for the rest. Maybe not, but it's something. He reached across the table, took her hand. I was angry at you for a long time. Felt betrayed, used, but I had 7 years to think about it, to understand what you were up against, what they did to you. That's not an excuse, no, but it's context. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. And somewhere in year 4, I realized I missed you more than I hated you, that I'd rather have what we had, complicated and messy and built on lies, than spend the rest of my life alone. Her throat was tight. Damien, I'm not asking you to fix this. I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. He met her eyes. I wanted to see you, to know you're okay, to tell you that I don't blame you anymore. You should, probably, but I don't. They sat there holding hands across a coffee shop table while the world moved around them. What are you going to do now? Livia asked. Now that you're out? I don't know. I'm not allowed in Chicago. Federal restrictions. Can't associate with anyone from my old life. Can't work in certain industries. He shrugged. I'm basically starting over from nothing. That's terrifying. It is. But it's also... He paused, searching for the word. Freeing. I spent my whole life being Damien Karate, the heir, the boss, the man everyone feared, and none of it made me happy. What would make you happy? He looked at her for a long moment. I don't know yet, but I think I'd like to find out. Without the violence, without the fear, just figure out who I am when I'm not trying to live up to my father's legacy. Livia smiled. That sounds like a good plan. Yeah? Yeah. She squeezed his hand. And if you want company while you figure it out, I'm here. Even after everything? Especially after everything. He pulled her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. The gesture was so familiar, it hurt. I don't deserve you, he said quietly. Good thing I don't care about deserve. She stood, moved to his side of the table, sat beside him. We're both broken. We're both carrying scars we didn't ask for, but maybe, if we're lucky, we can figure out how to be broken together. He turned to look at her. Those gray-blue eyes that had terrified her the first time she saw them now just looked tired and hopeful and human. I'd like that, he said. Good. She leaned in, kissed him. It was different than their first kiss in the hallway of his mother's mansion, different than the desperate kisses in his apartment before the world fell apart. This was slower, gentler, the kiss of two people who'd lost everything and found each other again on the other side. When they broke apart, Damien rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said. I should have said it 7 years ago, before everything went to hell, but I was too scared of what it meant. I love you too, even though I probably shouldn't. Probably not. They sat there in the corner of a coffee shop in Baltimore, holding each other like they'd just survived a war, which, in a way, they had. Key. 6 months later, Livia came home to find Damien cooking dinner in their small kitchen. He'd gotten a job doing construction, manual labor that left him exhausted, but satisfied in a way his old life never had. He'd also started seeing a therapist, working through the violence he'd witnessed and perpetrated, the grief of losing his brother despite everything Lucien had done, the complicated anger at his mother for raising him to be a weapon instead of a person. It was slow work, hard work, but he was doing it. Livia had her own therapist, her own damage to unpack, the manipulation, the guilt, the fear that she'd never be more than the sum of the lies she'd told. But gradually, they were healing. Smells good, she said, dropping her bag by the door. It's just pasta, nothing fancy. Still smells good. She kissed him. He wrapped his arms around her waist. How was work? He asked. Good. We had a kid come in today, 6 years old, leukemia, terrified. I sat with him for an hour, just talked. By the end, he was smiling. You're good at that, making people feel less alone. I learned from experience. They ate dinner, talked about nothing, about everything, about the life they were building that looked nothing like the one either of them had imagined. After dinner, Damien pulled a small box from his pocket. Livia's breath caught. It's not what you think, he said quickly. I mean, it is, but I'm not proposing, not yet, just… He opened the box. Inside was a silver bracelet, simple, elegant, with a small key charm. My bracelet, Livia whispered. The one I was wearing that night we met. I lost it in the warehouse. FBI returned it 6 months ago with the rest of your personal effects. I've been holding on to it. He took it out of the box. Your mother gave you this, and it connected us before either of us knew what that meant. I wanted you to have it back. She held out her wrist. He fastened the bracelet. The key charm caught the light. Thank you, she said. There's something else. He pulled out a small, tarnished key. I found this in my father's safe. Finally got it open last month. The keyhole matched your charm exactly. She stared at it. That's not possible. I thought the same thing, so I did some research. Turns out your grandmother and my grandfather knew each other, grew up in the same neighborhood, before the Karates became what we became. What does that mean? I think it means we were connected long before Marcello tried to use you as a weapon, before any of the manipulation. Our families crossed paths decades ago. He closed her fingers around the key. I think it means some things are inevitable, even when they're impossible. Livia looked at the key in her palm, at the bracelet on her wrist, at the man who'd been her destruction and her salvation all at once. So what was in the safe? She asked. Letters. Between my grandfather and your grandmother. They were, he paused. In love. Before he married my grandmother. Before he became the head of the family. He was just a kid from the neighborhood, and she was the girl he wanted to run away with. What happened? His family wouldn't allow it. Hers was too poor, wrong background. So he married who he was told to marry. Built the empire. Became the man everyone feared. Damien's voice was quiet. And spent the rest of his life wondering what would have happened if he'd been brave enough to choose her instead. Livia understood. We're their second chance. Maybe. Or maybe we're just two people who found each other despite everything trying to keep us apart. He pulled her close. Either way, I'm not letting go this time. Good, she said. Neither am I. Outside their window, the city moved on. People lived and died and made choices that would haunt them or save them, or both. But inside their small apartment, Damien Karate and Livia Vale held each other and chose to believe that sometimes, if you fought hard enough, if you survived long enough, if you were brave enough to forgive, broken people could build something whole. It wouldn't be easy, it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be real. And after everything they'd survived, real was more than enough. Why'n't? Years later, when people asked Livia how she and Damien met, she'd smile and say, I broke some champagne glasses at his feet and he decided I was worth the trouble. And Damien would add, she was wrong about the trouble part. She was way more trouble than I bargained for. But worth it? She'd ask. And he'd pull her close and say, every single second. Because that was the truth. Not the polished version. Not the safe version. Just two people who'd walked through hell and somehow found their way back to each other on the other side. The key charm still hung from Livia's bracelet, a reminder of the impossible connection that had brought them together. And in their bedroom, locked in a drawer neither of them opened often, were the letters between their grandparents. A love story that never got its ending. Until now. Until two kids from different worlds decided that the only thing more powerful than the violence that tried to destroy them was the stubborn, reckless, impossible choice to love anyway. Chicago was a memory now, a past neither could return to, but they'd built something new, something better, something that belonged only to them. And on cold November nights, when the wind howled and the memories got too loud, Damien would hold Livia close and whisper, you gave me a life. And she'd whisper back, you gave me one too. And that would be enough. It would always be enough.